All right, so obviously, we're coming up on convocation, and I know God has given every speaker a part and a piece to what he's speaking to us overall. But for what the Lord has been dealing with me about is that God was really challenging the consciousness of his people. There's a lot of things that people have gone through by way of trauma, whether that's personally or collectively. I think there have been people that have gone through trauma individually, but then I think also as a network. We went through different traumas, not just the transition of our spiritual father, but just other things that have come along the way, challenges that people have had doing the assignment. All of those things have just, had taken its toll on individuals. And what has happened is, although we still have people that are still doing what they are called to do, it's almost like at times people are going through the motions, right? It's what we know to do because we've always done it, but the spirit behind, the momentum behind, all the things that we, were doing in the past and things like that, the excitement when people thought about and heard liberty, that needs to be stirred again. And as a person who's been homegrown in it and understand and come up and face challenges and things of that nature, but that's what God is doing. And I just believe that building from the high places, how prophetic that is, because God is dealing with the high places, right? Automatically perceptions go to, we think about high places and we're thinking about the atmospheric, and that definitely is an issue. But it's really more about the atmosphere right here.
Yeah, absolutely. Right,
because this atmosphere determines whether or not God's body is mobile or God's body is paralyzed. And so we have to really begin to understand it. And I just believe that God is going to, throughout convocation, reconnect people to momentum, correct people to restoration, connect people to deliverance, connect people to, the glory of God. All the things that we've been hearing over the last several years is at convocation. But this is a time that when we hear the word this time, our spirit is going to be stirred, and we're going to see behaviors and language and mindsets that's going to be different from what we've seen before. Right?
Yeah.
So that after convocation, when it's time to execute what we're talking about, there's not a default or a deviation back to this is how we see it, this is how we speak, or this is how we behave. All of those things are connected to our belief system, and that has to be addressed. Because once that's addressed, then individuals are going to begin to see all of what I've been believing God for, the Lord's even been personally speaking to me about, right? In our individual destinies are going to begin to come. It's interesting. People have come up to me, especially after the last convocation when I was ministering, it was like, you know what? I just realized after all these years, I'm not a person of faith. Right? We were teaching on divine consciousness last year. And so to come to that place of acknowledgement, right? To understand that why haven't I been able to produce the things that have been prophesied to me about? So that's what I began to see the Lord accomplishing this year. That's why that we have that theme, building from the high places, not just our materials that are in the high places, but the consciousness that God is going to give us is going to align with what heaven says we're capable of as an organization, LIN, as a nation, all of that. We're going to begin to see that, and I believe that this is a sign of what is to come across the organization, right?
Yes.
As we move into this new window of time of acquisitions, where we're going to begin to see manifestations of the things that we have been prophesied to about, but never realized and seen. Because to do that, it requires us to have a consciousness, right? To produce it. We talked about that skill set, talked about the toolbox, all of that. So that's what God's going to accomplish this year. And I think each individual speaker has a different part to that. That's when we put it all together, we're going to have a clear understanding of what execution looks like as we move forward as God begins to address and provide that deliverance and that restoration and that, helping people to overcome the obstacles that have been in the high places.
Yes.
But they're going to begin to overcome that, right? This is the victory that overcomes the world, even our faith. And that's another thing, just seeing the faith going to another level, but you're going to see it, right? And we're going to hear it in language, we're going to see it in behaviors, and we're also going to see it in mindsets, that people are going to begin to embrace that. So that's what I see taking place, and I'm really excited about what God's going to be speaking. I just think the fact that even how we are doing it this time, in coming out of the normal way of the way we've always done convocation, right? All of those things are prophetic in that God is saying the way that I'm taking, you've never been this way before, as he said to Joshua, right? So getting us to demonstrate operating or doing something outside of the norm is one of the ways in which the Lord is beginning to address the consciousness. And so I just see that aligning with what heaven says, what heaven sees. And as I said to you before, when the Lord said to Joshua before he took Jericho, do you see? I have given you Jericho and its kings and all of its mighty men. Before he got to strategy, he had to deal with his consciousness. Joshua had to see that it was possible. Once he saw and aligned that it was possible, God got to the how in terms of how to bring the walls down. And I see that same process taking place with us as an organization.
But yeah, that's powerful, because everything has to be, I've learned now, you don't get anything extrinsically. Everything is intrinsic first. You have to start, as a man thinketh, so is it. You start inside, period.
God always engaged the leader first, right?
Yeah.
So he engaged Moses first before he could get to the people. So it always starts here.
Absolutely.
It's always there.